Okay, a follow-up video because someone asked me to do a video on the seal of the United States and money and all that. And to review, In God We Trust and I Pledge of Allegiance Under God were added in as an anti-communism thing. Basically, the Red Scare scared the U.S. government into violating one of its own rules of separation of church and state. This is a secular country. But this isn't the first time, obviously. So in the past we had several variations on sticking God into religion, and most obnoxiously and vulgar thing I can think of is putting it on their money. It's backed by gold, and then it's backed by God. What's next? God and guns and... Deo, not Ronnie James, Deo Favente to Annuit oeptis, or coeptis. He has favored our undertakings. That is one of many variations on using Latin or Greek expressions and poetry or whatever to make us seem more old world. Instead of saying God will favor our undertakings, or God bless America. That needs to be an animated GIF. Anyway, e pluribus unum, out of many, one, not New World Order or anything else. And Annuit coeptis, which is the shortened version of the one I said first, which is favor our undertakings. And it referenced, and it was referencing, the eye of providence, or provenance, or provenance, God's omniscience, symbolized. So, God favor our undertakings, God bless America, and out of many, one literally means one united of many. None of these actually have any New World Order references, but here we go. New Order of the Ages. Novus, ordo, seclorum. Okay, now I'm going to read a few things. Virgil's poems and works. Virgil's Aeneid, book 4, line 625, and many other things were used as a prophecy of the coming Christ. Basically, if it fits your narrative, you'll use anybody. Really, you will. So anyway. The plural form of the word seclorum means, in this context, generation, century, or age. So it could be new order of this generation or of this century. But it still says new order. Which, in context, could mean a new Jesuit order, or it could be a new or the renewed lack of chaos in our time. Of our generation. Could be anything you want it to be, right? This is why I hate ambiguity. It leaves a lot of room for people to show up and post comments. So here we go. From the Latin words annu, this is a third person singular present or perfect annuit. To nod or to approve. And coptum, plural of copta, commencement undertaking. Literally translate favors or acknowledges positively our undertaking or the beginning of a process. Provenance, God has given approval to the beginning of our process, or the commencement of the nation, or to our undertakings. Because it has so many other meanings, this is why it's called poetry. So we have poetic license that needs to be revoked. Or are you just traveling rather than driving that? I'm sorry, I just want to make a really bad beatnik joke. Anyway, here we go. So the assertion of the day, it's subject to interpretation, I understand that. So let's look for the one that sounds most terrifying. Okay, that's, all of these can be done that way because, and I'm going to say this very clearly, in previous generation, the United States acted way too big for its britches, with a bunch of people who wanted to sound much higher than their station of us being a bunch of, poor people starting a nation. And instead of putting plain English or the King's English on a damn thing, we chose to use Latin, which would be really elitist. And still is. I don't like Latin because it's either very literal, which means you can't make a mistake, or poetic. Which did they pick? The least straightforward, most ambiguous thing they could find. This is the reason I don't like philosophy, art, or poetry interfering with what day is it. Oh, it's the 4th year of our Lord. Bang! What year is it? 4 AD. Thank you. Now shut up. Yes, it's AD and BC. Don't care if you like it. That's what it is. Stop messing with time. But anyway, let's move on. There are many perceptions. Yes, there's many interpretations when someone quotes a freaking poem that got used by generations in the past for the second coming of Christ. Get your house in order. You're all going to die and we're going to be killing you because this is our weird fantasy about God coming and beating you up. Anyway, to understand the Great Seal or coin, you must sift through different perceptions of that word and English and actions. Same thing with the other words. So you're talking about Annuit, oeptis. How about Inuit copulation? How about canine copulation? Or is this a minor pooch screw? Can't we find something less stupid to talk about than something intentionally designed to drive me insane? I swear these people sat back in time. Here. Hey, there's this guy going to be born someday named Waptek. Let's screw with him. I swear they did it just to piss me off. No, I don't like these expressions either. I'd also like to remove "In God We Trust" from the money because it was put there by a bunch of opportunistic little grifters, religious ones. Now we're going to get to the assertions this person came up with. When you recreate the coin to 3D, your original perceptions will change. You mean when you stamp something from letters on a page into 3D relief called bas relief or otherwise? We separate each symbol and writing to a 3D viewing of all perceptions. No, we don't. It's intentionally read as Latinized bad poetry from some guy named Virgil by a country that was trying to be above its station. Which every other country was doing at the same time, by the way. Britain is filled with this crap, by the way. So's law. Why do we have Latin in our law? The jaw spoketh. So anyway, by using a computer, it scanned for correct perceptions of the two meanings side by side. No, it's written in plain text. You can just write it out in handwriting or type it out on a sheet of paper. That's called writing. It doesn't require that you use a computer to badly interpret some guy named Virgil wrote as bad poetry hundreds or thousands of years ago. It's thousands of years ago, wasn't it? But we have to use a computer now to decode it. Enhance? Of course. Can you see the writing on the wall? Can you see the hole in the walk? The writing on the wall is above the hole. It appears in directions what's on the side of the hole. And the neon flash. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Okay, anyway. The computer chose Annuit to be meaning to nod. The computer chose oeptis to mean the beginning. To nod, the beginning. The beginning to nod. Computer explains Bible reference to where God sent Cain for killing Abel. Seal coin in 3 parts. Brick wall, writing above the hole, an entrance. The pyramid has writing on the bottom. I'm told by the computer it's Roman numerals or numerals in Roman. It's Roman numerals for a particular year. Yeah, that's kind of written
literally, did any of you know that when they came up with these seals, they wrote out in plain English, for anybody who want to go look it up, why they chose this? Why did they use something Egyptian? Because it was fashionable at the time. I'm not kidding, that was the reason. That's sort of like deciding on a particular year you're going to have a coin that has stamp 1776 and have pictures of fireworks. They don't mean anything symbolically different. They're literally just fireworks. Because it's fucking fireworks. At the time, Egyptology was very, very important to people. It was a fun subject. So they let pop culture in. It's a pop culture reference to something that was new and exciting at the time. So they threw it on the money to make it harder to copy. That's the reason it was put on money. If you're curious why we have that symbol there, it was a hard to draw drawing because it had diagonal lines, and you had to draw it a certain way, and you had to. Odd we have Latin than Roman. Spain and Rome, more clues. They're not clues. They used Roman numerals because it was considered oldie-timey. Because a lot of clocks had Roman numerals. Because it was used because it was pretty looking. No, I'm not kidding. The explicit reason Roman numerals were used instead of Arabic numerals has nothing to do with Arabia. It has to do with it looking cool looking. It also made it harder to read, so people would be encouraged to learn the Roman numerals. Along with, did you know that the names of the alphabet, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, blah, blah, blah. The only remnant we have of that is radiation names. Alpha and beta particles, gamma rays. When I solve the perceptions of the pyramid, I'll be back. First clue solved. Writing on the wall says the beginning to nod through the hole in the wall by. You haven't decoded anything, you've just spun yourself into a tizzy and that's it. I'll put at the bottom what the numbers at the bottom are, I guess. You can look it up. It spells out 1776. If anybody's curious, I'll do the translation for you, because it's not some coded message, it's a bunch of artsy-fartsy coded messages based on pop culture at the time, because people were, this is like having Indiana Jones on your money or something. It's just silly. This is why you shouldn't let current events become permanent stamped stuff. Deo Favente, Annuit coptis. God has favored the beginning of the United States. Out of many, one. Out of many colonies, one nation. New order of the ages. It's a reference to Virgil poem. And it actually could have meant less chaos in our time. Favor our undertakings. Eye of provenance, secret coded message for meaning Christian God. Symbol. These are secret messages saying the United States had people in it, infiltrating it, from the Christian religion, trying to insert religion right after a separation of church and state was announced to be a basis for our government. And ever since then, it's pissed off the religions. Every other religion sticks itself into some government. Every government always latches onto one religion or another. We were part of the 1700s. The grouping of people who were trying to divest themselves from churches and disempower religion and keep it from having power over the people without consent. This is an example of the Christian religion. Specifically, if you claim this is Christian religion-based, our country raping the people again. And it's a constant fight for secularism, because it's safer, because it's better. It also prevents abuse of the church. It forces the church to be less powerful and not able to run amok, most of the time anyway. But even though it disempowers them, it makes them healthier. Every country's better off without it being run by religion. All countries should be religion-free. They should be godless on the state level, because giving the state the power of God, or giving the church the power of the state, are always bad for everybody else. And unless you freaking learn that from the hundreds of examples in history, you will allow it to happen again. And yes, religion wishes to overthrow the government. It's a fact. Goodbye.